The desert sun beat down mercilessly on the rocky ridges where the sniper team had set up their observation post. Every movement in the valley below was visible through the high-powered scopes, and every wind gust carried the scent of dust and heat. The team, experienced and precise, had gathered here for weeks, planning, coordinating, and calculating the impossible shot. Their target was moving, unpredictable, and at a distance that most would call absurd. Yet the briefings had made it clear, if this individual succeeded, the consequences could be catastrophic. Alex, the team leader, wiped sweat from his brow and adjusted his scope. His voice was calm but carried the weight of authority as he said, "It's impossible to hit." Even at her skill level, the wind, the distance, the angle, everything works against a clean shot. The team nodded in unison, understanding the gravity of the situation. They had trained for years for precision, yet all indicators suggested that this shot would not be successful. Their equipment was state-of-the-art, but even the finest technology could not fully counter human unpredictability. From their concealed position, they watched as she emerged from behind the ridge, silent and deliberate. The sniper team's chatter quieted, the only sound the faint hum of heat and distant desert wind. She didn't carry herself with the arrogance of someone testing limits, she moved with the confidence of someone who had already mastered them. Each motion was fluid, natural, and precise. The target was more than aware of their presence, yet she acted as if the landscape belonged to her, as if she were a part of it. Her movements were almost imperceptible at first, and the team's scope struggled to pick up subtle shifts in her stance. Alex leaned closer, noting the slight tremor in the air as the heat waves distorted their view. "She's calculating the shot. Look at her posture," he muttered under his breath. The team's skepticism remained. None of them had seen anyone capable of this level of skill at such extreme range. Even trained eyes could not reconcile the image of this lone figure with the impossibility of what she was attempting. Minutes stretched into an eternity. The desert seemed to hold its breath along with the team, waiting for something to break the tension. Each sniper adjusted, rechecked angles, and whispered calculations, yet the sense of futility lingered. They were professionals, and yet an unspoken fear ran through them. If she succeeded, no one would believe it without witnessing it firsthand. The hum of the desert, the faint rattling of distant rocks, even the beating of their own hearts seemed amplified as they focused on the moment. And then she raised her rifle. Not a twitch, not a hesitation, just a smooth, deliberate alignment that made everything else fade into the background. The impossible was about to be tested, and the team, despite their experience, could not shake the sense of awe that had settled over the ridge. For a moment, silence became its own language, a shared understanding that they were witnessing something beyond ordinary human capability, something that might defy all logic and calculation. The team held their breath as she steadied her rifle, the scope reflecting nothing but heat waves and barren terrain. Every second stretched longer than the last, each heartbeat echoing in the silence. Alex's hands gripped the edge of the ridge, knuckles white, as he whispered calculations nobody could verify. The others followed suit, eyes glued to their scopes, fingers twitching near triggers that would never be needed. They had done impossible shots before, but this was something else entirely. The target, unaware of the observer above, moved in a way that made the shot feel even more improbable. It wasn't just distance. It was the wind, the angle, the sheer unpredictability of human movement. And yet, she adjusted with a precision that made everything around her seem irrelevant. A slight twist of the wrist, a subtle shift of weight, and her posture was perfect. The desert seemed to obey her rhythm, as if even the environment was in sync with her aim. The snipers whispered, debating corrections, each voice a fragile thread in the tension-heavy air. "The wind's at 32 degrees, one muttered. "Impact will be off by at least a meter." Alex shook his head, unwilling to accept the uncertainty that science demanded. "She's factoring that in. I can see it." But even he couldn't explain how. Then, just as suddenly as she had appeared, she lowered her stance and disappeared behind a ridge for a fraction of a second. The team blinked, trying to track her through the scopes. And in that fleeting moment, something moved down in the valley, a subtle tremor, almost imperceptible, like the whisper of a distant rockslide. The team gasped collectively. It wasn't the sound of a shot. There was no flash, no recoil, no evidence of a trigger being pulled. And yet the target shifted violently, collapsing in a way that left no doubt in anyone's mind. A perfect hit, impossible by all standard calculations, had landed without a single sign of its execution. The sniper team froze, eyes wide, mouths dry, as they tried to comprehend what had just happened. Alex lowered his scope slowly, unwilling to breathe too heavily in case the reality unraveled like a dream. "There's no way," he muttered. His team shook their heads, disbelief etched into every line of their faces. Instruments confirmed nothing extraordinary. The shot shouldn't have reached, shouldn't have hit, and yet the impact spoke louder than any measure. They scanned the ridges, looking for her, expecting to see a flash or a trace of movement. Nothing. She was gone, as if she had melted into the desert itself. The impossibility of it left them stunned, a mix of awe and fear that churned in their chests. They had seen skill, but this was beyond human skill. This was instinct, calculation, and something undefinable all at once. For the first time in their careers, the team understood that they were witnessing something that no scope, no calculation, no years of experience could fully explain. The impossible had happened, and it had happened silently, flawlessly, and without a single eye ever seeing her fire. The desert seemed quieter after the shot, as if the wind itself was holding its breath in awe. The sniper team remained frozen on the ridge, their eyes scanning the valley below and the surrounding ridges for any sign of her, but she was gone. Not a footprint, not a shadow, nothing betrayed her presence. Alex finally exhaled, a long, shaky breath, and looked at his team. "We just witnessed something unbelievable," he said, his voice low, tinged with both fear and admiration. The target lay still in the valley, completely neutralized, the shot impossible by every known metric. No one spoke at first. Silence stretched like a taut rope, fraying only when one of the snipers whispered, "Did she even fire?" "I didn't see anything." The others shook their heads, eyes wide with disbelief. Every calculation, every theory they had run through their heads, had said the shot couldn't happen. And yet here it was, a perfect execution without a trace of the act itself. Alex shook his head slowly, still trying to piece it together. "Years of training, every piece of tech we have, and none of it mattered," he murmured. "She doesn't just bend the rules, she rewrites them." The team felt a mix of exhilaration and unease. They had chased impossible shots before, but never had they been so profoundly outclassed, so entirely mystified by a single figure in the desert. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of gold and red, the team packed up their equipment in silence. No one dared to speak of the shot too loudly, as if raising their voices might make the impossible vanish like smoke. They left the ridge slowly, each step heavy with the weight of what they had witnessed. Even as seasoned professionals, they knew this was a story that would follow them for the rest of their careers, a moment burned into memory where skill, instinct, and something almost supernatural converged. Back at their base, the reports they filed were careful and clinical, devoid of the awe and fear that gripped them on the ridge. The details of the target neutralized, the conditions of the shot, and the calculated impossibility were all included. Yet no document, no graph, no scope readout could truly convey the reality. A single individual had executed the impossible, without anyone ever seeing her fire. And though she remained unseen, unknown, and almost mythic, the legend of her skill would spread. In a world bound by rules and measurements, she had proven that some things defy understanding entirely. And as Alex glanced at the horizon one last time, he knew that this was a story worth sharing, not just as a report, but as a testament to human potential that pushes beyond what anyone thought was possible. If you enjoyed this incredible story and want to see more jaw-dropping tales like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel Her Stories Words. Every video brings real suspense, unbelievable skill, and stories that leave you questioning what you thought was possible. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button and join the journey into the extraordinary.